Welcome to Hashtag General, a show where our show note wasn't written at 11 o'clock last night after a 4-hour binge of Plain City Skylines. It was a 6-hour binge. I'm your host, Logan Studley, and joining me is the other host, as always, Chris Sakamura. How are you doing, Chris?
Not bad. How's it going, guys?
Oh, other than James, I think, wanting to throw my computer out the window because of the tech issue, I think we're okay.
I'm like
What else
when
is new?
it comes to dealing with computer problems. Just like, why is it not working? It's a witch, bring it.
I love how the one time like James goes off in like crazy voice land is the one time he's not mic'd up. Excuse me. Yeah, no, not much up with me. Yeah, it's just been, another 2 weeks in the life of Logan Studley where, where I say, not much happened. But how about you? How's it been?
Not bad, not bad. Kind of hanging out and doing my thing.
Oh, awesome. Let's just oh man. Of course, right when we start recording, I get something in my throat. Let's just move on quickly then. What have you been up? What have you been watching? What have you been playing, Chris?
Nothing really. I've just kind of been doing the normal stuff I would have been doing anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's how I feel like I'm gonna say the past 2 months, or really more February felt like this to me, where it's just like I'm just doing what I've been doing, nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do have one thing I would recommend for people that I've been watching. That if you, there's now I would say Apple TV now has two shows that I would recommend. Ted Lasso, of course. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso, watch Ted Lasso. It is honestly one of the best things I would say. It's, there's like a few. 2020 felt odd in that a lot of production kind of just was halted. So it felt like a lot of the releases were kind of scattershot. So it
Right.
means some things that may not have caught my attention did. It also meant that some shows that deserved the attention they got weren't being overrun by something else like Queen's Gambit. Like I could see Queen's Gambit easily getting lost in the weeds if we had like a normal year last year.
Right.
But Ted Lasso is one of those standouts. The other one is season one it's good. It has a few, bit of stumbling, like no pratfalls or anything, or they're just like how it is with a lot of shows. Season one, where there's a few things that get ironed out as the show goes along. But For All Mankind, season two is only I think 3 episodes in and is just firing on all cylinders. So, if you aren't familiar with it, the thing that got me interested in it is first the concept is interesting, but it's also the talent behind the scenes. It's being showrun by Ron Moore, who's the same person who did Battlestar Galactica. I think he also did like Outlander, but his pedigree is like Star Trek. Like this guy was big on. He started on TNG. He wrote, I think, First Contact, and he did a lot of work on Deep Space Nine. So he's one of the was like this guy is
He's like an OG
legitimately
guy.
he's OG legitimately talented. But the concept for All Mankind, if you're not familiar with it, it is the idea that the space race never really ended and that the Soviet Union landed on the moon first. So it's kind of this alternate history bit where the divergence really becomes in, if you know anything about NASA and Russia, like Russia kind of never, Russia did the sprint and went, woohoo, we launched a man into space. Cool, we're done. And then NASA went into marathon mode. So this means that in the early 60s, things would have been different in Russia where they would have actually tried to land on the moon with a manned mission. But that's kind of the main divergence, is that the first person on the moon was Russian. And it's a very interesting, fascinating series. So big recommend to that one. Legitimately, I was legitimately in tears with episode 3. So, yeah,
Okay. Good to know. Sounds
highly
exciting.
recommend. That, and I've also been on like I said, I've been on a weird thing where I'm getting back into City Skylines, which means I'm probably going to be like obsessing over road layouts for the next 2 weeks. Um, I don't know.
As one does.
As one does. I spent so much time in SimCity as a kid. My mom honestly was like, "I would have swore you were going to be an urban planner, Logan." But you see, urban planners and city planners get told no, and I just don't want to be told no. I want to take out the freeway and put in like a walkway. You can't tell me no. So yeah, no, I was playing quite a bit of that yesterday. But yeah, other than that, it's just like we're gonna talk about later with WandaVision. It's just kind of just going about business.
Right.
So let's move on to the next kind of topic that's getting thrown under general because it doesn't really fit anywhere else, which often happens with stuff like this. What Disneyland has been, state of California has basically said Disneyland, or not Disneyland specifically, but places like Disneyland are going to be able to open up in April.
Right.
Meanwhile, Disneyland, which they're probably going to open up then, events like Anime Expo, Comic-Con, and E3 have already confirmed. In the case of E3, they've only confirmed that they're not holding the in-person event. There's just a lot of like heavy speculation that they're doing something virtual, whereas Anime Expo and Comic-Con, I believe they both have said they're going to do a virtual event this year. And it's just,
Correct.
it's really interesting to see how some places are like, okay, vaccines are going out. Like, normal is within reach. Let's open up as fast as we can. Other places are like, we're just not even going to bother. And I wonder how much of it is for like places like for events like Comic-Con, where there's just so much prep work that they're just like, it's not, we're, by the time we can all meet in person and get that prep work done, it's like too late. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like I look at Disneyland and I'm just like, I know there are going to be plenty of people who are going to be there day one because they're, woohoo, it's reopened. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm looking forward to going to the theater. I don't see myself going in April or May or even June. Like at this
Yeah.
point, like I'm thinking July, August might be the earliest where I start being like, let's venture out in small excursions.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
like, I go out now just to like the supermarket and Target or like to do something, just like get out of the house and feel something.
yeah,
But like sitting to like going to the mall or going to like a movie theater or a theme park is just like not anywhere in my psyche.
yeah, it's like the grocery store. It's one of those things where I find myself on edge in there sometimes still, where because there are just some people who aren't really doing a great job practicing social distancing. But it's also like a grocery store. It's like, well, I have to survive. I don't
Correct.
have to go, especially for like a Warner Brothers release. Like, I'm excited to watch Kong versus or Godzilla versus Kong. I think it's gonna be fun. I'm not gonna go see it in the theater because that just sounds like a nightmare now. Because instead of
Yeah.
watching and relaxing and enjoying the movie, I'm going to be sitting there going, when was the last time the person behind me was tested? Were they ever
Right.
tested? Do they practice social? Like, it's just like, I don't see going to events like this or going to like places like that where it's just like gathering large groups of people in one place to essentially to be just where the point is to be there. I don't see myself comfortably doing that. Like, again, like I think the first movie I might go see in theaters is probably gonna be like Dune, and that's at the end of the year. Because I just don't. It's like yes, we're gonna all have the vaccines being rolled out, but that doesn't mean we're like out of the
You feel
woods.
safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Like there's so many other aspects to it in terms of like herd immunity. And part of that is going to be even after you get vaccinated, it's like limiting how often you go out until we can actually get case numbers down. It's the whole thing with like measles. People, when we had those measles outbreaks, like pre-COVID, the way those happened, it wasn't that everyone there was not vaccinated for measles. Like some people who were vaccinated for measles caught it. It's that part of herd immunity is by having like the disease or the antibodies present in enough people, it can't easily spread and become, more contagious.
Right.
But if you have enough people who aren't vaccinated, it will still spread. And so even if we have 90% vaccination, we're still going to have to be in some form of stay-at-home lockdown, safe practices, even if it's not as harsh as we were in the past. Like, we're still going to have to operate in that space for a little bit just to get the disease to burn out of the system.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that. The vaccines aren't an and we're done. It is a good, we've worked to help stop the spread, but that doesn't mean you won't catch it or spread it or that enough people will have the vaccine. Like it's helping right now, but it isn't like it's not a cure.
Yeah, I think like just having the understanding that like, hey, just till you get the vaccine, it's not like you get a jail-free card. Like you still should be staying home and like social
Yeah.
distancing and like all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean like I can go back to normal, which I think is a problem with most people's understanding of what the vaccine is and what it does and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I just don't trust people.
Yeah. That's kind of what my thing is too, is like, I'll get the vaccine and then
Yeah.
I'll see what happens because I honestly, there's a part of me that is like hopeful that maybe it is enough that enough people vaccinated, it kills it. Hooray. But my fear is so many people will be like, oh, I'm vaccinated, I don't have to worry about it. That we're going to just see spikes in cases again, even though we have like the majority of people vaccinated. In which case, it's almost like we haven't fixed the problem so much as we've just made it less bad.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like I get why Disney wants to reopen Disneyland. That's like a major. That's like hurting them financially that it's staying closed. But it's almost just like I would have been so much happier if even if the state said, "Oh yeah, you can reopen in April," if they were like, "We're gonna wait till July." Just like
Yeah. I mean, like the thing is, they are being as smart as they can with it. It is like I read a ton of stuff on it because again, like I think we've been pretty open about this. Like we're Disney people.
mm-hmm.
Like we have Disney tickets that are unused currently. We were planning on going like a month after. We're planning a Disney trip a month before the pandemic happened.
Oh yeah,
You know,
no, like I
the
know you were talking of going. I know I was trying to do something around my not for my birthday, but it would have been around my birthday, like
yeah,
just around that general time to try to do like a big let's all go to Disneyland. And like I want to go back. I'm looking forward to going back. I don't doubt that Disney is doing its best to get the park reopened in a safe manner. It's not that I don't trust Disney, it's that I don't trust the type of people who would attend it day 1 or day 2
yeah,
or day 30.
totally with you there.
And that's where my concern is if and where why I go I wish they'd stay closed. It's not because I don't think they wouldn't do their due diligence. It's that by staying closed, the people who would have been like the most problematic in terms of spreading, well, we've bought 2 months of vaccinations and lockdowns, and that might limit it. But again, they might be looking at it too from a perspective of we aren't going to like we need to reopen, and the people who are going to be a problems are always going to be a problem, even in whether it's April or July. And so that might be their rationale behind it, is that they're just like, so we need to open up, we need to do it in a safe manner, and we need to enforce like mask rules and all that and be like hardcore on that.
Yeah.
But
So the rule, what they're doing is only California residents can attend. No one from out of state. Only California residents. And then the um, yeah, California residents, and then 15% capacity, and then no indoor rides. So like Space Mountain,
Space Mountain
Indiana
would be out.
Jones,
Yeah.
yeah, Indiana Jones, stuff like that. That's indoors are no goes. Um,
Oh, that would kill like everything in Galaxy's Edge.
yeah. Um, no, like all outdoor seating and outdoor eating, and then you can't. You have to sit down to eat, so you have to have your mask on until you sit down. Uh, can't take the mask off until your food arrives. So like even when you're ordering or sitting down or whatever, you can't do any of that. Uh, all the kind of stuff like that. Like so they're doing like reading all the rules. Like it was just a thing of like, oh, okay, at least they're trying.
Yeah. I wonder how much of it is to have our experience in customer service, like knowing that. I guess the real question is, are they going to actually enable cast members to enforce those rules? Because I
Yeah,
know that was a big problem when we both worked at the theater. Whenever they would come up with anything remotely like this, like my thing about where I see a lot of these issues also comes down to when they wanted to start doing bag checks at the theater for like security, and they never provided like the authority or manpower to actually do it effectively, and it just was
right.
like at that point it was useless, and it's just like if you don't actually have teeth to these rules, it's going to not
Yeah, they just
function.
bounce. They just
Yeah.
bounce off. Yeah.
So because you know day one there's gonna be a bunch of people moaning and complaining if they're told they have to wear a mask, and if there isn't an immediate you must leave the park, here's security, they're gonna escort you out. I don't see it. Like I can see like 90% of people accepting it, but it's those that 10% is all you really need. I think I saw somewhere that it is around 10%, that around that threshold on vaccinations is the point where they stop being effective.
Yeah.
So it's like that's how I look at it. Is like if 10% of people break the rules and then nothing happens to them, then it's basically the
Null and
effectiveness
void.
just nosedives and becomes irrelevant. So I'm I'm interested to see how they handle it, because I think if they do it right, then it is a framework that I think a lot of other places should, look at on
Right.
how to implement like reopening. But it's also at the same time, like again, like it's my inner cynicism having worked customer service. Or it's just like
Uh,
I don't. It's not that I don't trust the company has the best interests in mind. It is I don't know if the customers are gonna, or the guests are going to play along. Um, so we'll see. I'm sure we're going to hear about that like the moment it reopens. There's going to be like horror stories. It's either going to be a bunch of horror stories about oh my god the Disney reopening, or it's going to be like quiet.
yeah.
Um, because that's just how media works. Either we're going to be complaining about it or nothing happened. Um, let's move on.
Not much on the docket today.
Yeah, not much on the docket today. Um, so games. This is a quick one with Valheim. I haven't played it yet, but my God, I'm super interested in this. But I think the big reason why I even added it to the list is it just is like, it's kind of like Fall Guys, where it just, to me, it seemed to come out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, everyone's playing it and talking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I've jumped in and out. It's fun. It's a good time. It's just a thing of, well, for me, it's a thing of I just have a lot of stuff to play on a
yeah,
regular basis. And I just don't have the time. But
I my interest has come, and you kind of experienced this firsthand a couple of weeks ago when we were trying to like we were playing Fortnite or something, and I sent you a message going, "Hey, we're about to play if you want to join in." And you were just like, oh, I don't want, like, your thing was, because I think we had 4 people playing, and you're like, oh, I don't want to like bump anyone from the squad. And it's just, we run into that constantly with games where, like, one game I know has been of interest to, my playing with my group of friends has been Sea of Thieves, but that is capped at 4 people. And then
Yeah.
it's just like you look around, and a lot of these games that are interesting or would be good for a group have like a cap of 4 or 5. And so if you have a group larger than that playing, like the ability to play that game is kind of just taken away. And so my whole thing is not only does Valheim look like it's interesting to play, but the fact that it's mainly focused on PvE rather than PvP means it might be a little bit more like just easy to just like hop in and play for a bit and then hop out. But also on top of it is like their server cap is, so essentially their player cap is 10, which is, if you can do the math, that's more than double 4. And so it's just, I wonder how much of that may have played into Valheim getting big quickly. Was not just that it looked fun and it looked just interesting in terms of concept and art style, but just the fact that if you were looking for a game to play with your friends, this one doesn't have as many limitations on how many people can be playing at once. Because that's honestly the reason why I haven't played Sea of Thieves yet. Is it's not that I can't find 4 people who would be willing to play. It's that I have more than 4 people who want to play it.
Right.
And we don't want to
Yeah, I
exclude
think that's a
anyone
pretty
out.
common problem. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common problem, and like that's why, like, yeah, I would love to play Fortnite with you guys. It was just the thing of like, damn, I have it's the thing of like, cool, I'd rather play with you guys than eat or like do other things, but I probably should do those other things. And you already have 4 people, and I don't want to
Yeah.
bump anyone. And I
And
was
you
like,
didn't want to
I
bump
can just
anyone. And we were just like, and because the thing is we run into this all the time. Usually when the moment we'd hit like 5 people, we would just switch over into Rumble. But I think when we were doing this, like the Rumble playset was different and no one was like a big fan of it. So it was just
yeah.
kind of like,
I was just like,
maybe later. But, and it was just,
yeah, it was just a thing of like, I'm like, man, I don't want to bump anyone, and like, man, I really should be doing other things more responsible with my time. And I was like, well,
yeah.
okay, fine.
And I think that's something that, so if that was one of the reasons why Valheim stood out to me, was it was just like, oh, like we all could play
Yeah,
and no one would get bumped. And that alone is why there's some game, like, as silly as it is, one of the reasons why I keep looking at bringing the group back to Lord of the Rings Online, as much as I know I've talked about how much I love Lord of the Rings Online on the show before, is like the fact that its group up cap is, I think, 6 or 7. Like, I should double check that, but it's one of those cases where, like, even Star Wars Old Republic, it's an MMO, but you're capped at 4 people in a party, essentially. Anything larger than that, you have to like go into like a raid. And it's just like, there's some things where, no, I have 6 people. I get that this space is capped at 4, but I have 6 people. And it's just,
it's so interesting to me. I've thought this for a while of like, there's no reason why games should be capped at 4 other than the old school mentality of like console gaming,
where you only had like the 4
where,
controllers. Yeah.
right. But like when you think about games that are only PC or like primarily PC, or even again like Fortnite that is on a multitude of consoles, there's really no reason why it should be capped at 4.
Yeah. And it's something I find frustrating too, is Fortnite, like, we might be in a party with more than 4 people, but they still follow like the squad mentality where squads are capped at 4. So I'll be
Right.
playing with someone and I'll get a gun that someone is like way better than me at. and like, hey, do you want this? Let's swap. And then we realize we're on different squads. And so we have to sit there and like talk through where we are on the map and be like, okay, I'm the guy jumping up and down and spinning in a circle in order to like
Yeah.
help the other person identify where they are. And it's just like, this didn't bother me as much, I think, pre-pandemic, because getting like more than 4 people to play a game at once on a computer seemed more rare. But now, since everyone's at home and it's more likely we're going to have more than 4 people, it seems incredibly arbitrary to the point of being frustrating, and it eliminates a lot of very interesting games that we all would like to play, because we don't want to be in the position of excluding anyone, like in the sense of you, where you're like, oh, I don't want to knock anyone from the squad in Fortnite. We don't want to sit there and be like, oh, we already have a squad, you can't play.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so
I
it-
don't. Yeah, I think it's a thing too of like. That's why I was like, let me take myself out of the equation here, because I don't want to like put you guys in the position to do that. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll just like take myself out of the equation here.
Yeah, and it's because like, and again, it goes to like things like Sea of Thieves capped at 4. What else? There was another game that was like capped at 4, or like even something like Heroes, or if we did League of Legends or anything where it's like 5. It's still like, there are some games where there is like a reason behind it, like in like a League of Legends or Heroes of the Storm. It's like you need to cap it just based on how the game is played.
Right. Overwatch, same thing.
Overwatch, same thing. But Sea of Thieves, like, yeah, you might be like capping how many people can be on a ship. Fine, I get that. Capping how many people can be in the party, I don't. So yeah, it's something I wish more games would think about, especially going into the future, is this idea that you need to be able to like think through the restriction on players. Like, is there a reason for this restriction beyond this is just the way it's always been? Because 4 just isn't enough anymore.
Yeah, and like again, like you're talking about, I can get it from like game design reasons. Like, there's certain games that work best with 4, or certain modes and things that like, okay, yeah, 4 is a good number. But like something like a Fortnite, where I'm like, okay, there's 100 people on the map. Even queuing up as a party, it should be more than 4.
Yeah. Like, I don't think anyone's going to object if they added like a 5v5 or a 10v10 or
Yeah, I
a
mean,
10
dude,
like,
they did the 50 versus 50 mode, and I was like, cool, this is fun.
yeah, and it's just obviously the restriction is entirely in a choice, not a necessity.
Right.
But on Valheim, the other thing too is just like that gets me is just it's at 5 million copies, and it's been out like a month and a week.
Yeah.
It's like every time I see a headline with Valheim, the amount of copies it sold has gone up by 1 million.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I haven't played it yet. I've been talking about it with a bunch of people, just be like, and then I honestly have watched YouTube videos on base building to be like, Kozagars, notice how I said I was on a city skyline kick? Clearly there is something here about me and designing things when it comes to like laying out like a base.
Yeah.
To where I was like looking at that and just going, this seems great. Because one of the things, again, to tie it back to Lord of the Rings Online, because of course my brain jumps from thing to thing. One of the things I enjoyed in doing in that game was actually like crafting. Like I don't know why, but doing that in a game I find kind of relaxing. And this is just like, looks like that is the game. It is crafting with occasional boss fights. That's what my experience with Valheim will probably end up being, is crafting
Probably
with occasional
true.
boss fights. But it just was like Like, had you heard about it before it
Daddy, why
basically crossed
why
like the
don't
3
have
million?
your iPad on the wall?
Yeah, Daddy has his phone here. Yeah, I had heard about it quietly when it launched, and my friends would tell me like, "Hey, there's this thing that's out. You should try it." I was like, "Cool." Then I tried it, and I was like, "Great, this is fun." Uh, I have other stuff, but like,
Yeah.
cool, it's there, and like, it's like the thing where it's just another game,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like cool. It's like Fall Guys, right? Like Fall Guys, cool. Okay, it's there. It's there if I need it. It's there if I want to play it. Great.
And that's how
Like
I
it's moved to the side, and
yeah,
then it started to blow up, and I was like, "Oh, maybe I'm missing something." And I jumped back. I've jumped back in since then. I'm like, "Cool. It's fun." I don't see it as like something I'm gonna stick with long time or like a long time and like
yeah, I
really get into.
don't look at it as a game that I'm gonna play like every day or like
Yeah,
weekly. I look at this as a game where it's just like everyone's like, "Hey, let's play a game." I'm like, "Hey, let's just play around Valheim." Like I can just see it being one of those scenes where like we play it for like a couple times and then we don't pick it up for a couple months and then we pick it up again and we're like, "Oh yeah, this game is so much fun." Like
yeah.
I don't see
Like,
it
oh, I
because
forgot. I forgot this game's fun. Cool.
yeah, like I don't see it being unless it starts doing like a quest mechanic or like an XP mechanic like Fortnite has like their daily quests or you get the same thing with like Destiny. I don't see this being a game that even though there are already people out there who have like hundreds of hours into it, like I'm like I can see myself putting hundreds of hours into a game like that. I don't see myself doing that in the space of a month.
Yeah, and I really hope they don't. We don't need another games as a service. I have so much stuff to play
Yeah,
that like I'm falling behind on.
I don't want it to fall into games as a service, but yeah, there's because honestly, that has kept me from some games is just the idea that it's just like, oh, you mean at a certain point I'm just grinding. It's like, well, which game do I want to grind?
Yeah, you gotta choose. You can't grind them all, right?
Yeah.
You have to choose which one you want to invest your time in. It's tough. It's a tough thing. I didn't bring this up during the last segment, but I will say that the Guilty Gear Strive delay did put like a weird pause on a whole bunch of stuff that I was planning to do. And it's so interesting now to like look at my game, like the game's release calendar for the next couple of months and be like, all right, cool. How do I fill the time to get to Guilty Gear Strive? Um,
uh,
and so it's like, man, because like Pokemon Snap comes out, MLB The Show, like those things could be hangovers. Like I want to do. You'll love this too. My dad loves Pokemon Snap. It's like one of one of his favorite games of all time is Pokemon Snap. So now that Pokemon Snap 2 is coming out, or new Pokemon Snap, I want to do streams where it's side by side me and him doing speed runs, and then having like competitions of all right, who can take the best picture on this route at the same time? Ready, go.
I'm a fan. I like this idea.
So like
Um,
that's my plan, and I was like, cool, we can do that for a little bit. I was like, I don't know how long we could do that for,
this
but
like you're
like,
bringing up MLB the Show though. It's like there's I'm not the biggest baseball guy. Like we've talked about, like my sport is hockey, but
sure,
MLB the Show and on some level, the NHL series. Every year when the new one comes out, I actually legitimately sit there and go, "Do I want to buy a console for these games?" And it's just like it seems odd that those would be the games that would get me to jump on getting a console. But a lot of it is I'm not interested in like playing like the traditional aspects of the game so much as like I want to play like the management aspect of it.
yeah,
Like
that's one of my favorite parts of like
like
sports games.
those that's the thing that is just and the fact that you can't get like NHL stopped making their PC version like over a
Well,
decade
Logan,
ago.
I would suggest because I'm into they're called GM games,
Hmm.
right? Like, so
Football Manager.
that's no. Uh, if you go to there's a company called Wolverine Studios.
All right, I'm looking this
The
up right now.
there's a studio called Wolverine Studios that specializes in these GM games. So they have a college basketball one that I play every year. That's one of my favorites. I have hundreds of hours in each one of those. Um, but they just make, what it is, GM games. So think about Football Manager, but they make it for baseball and football and soccer and hockey and everything else. Some of the best games in that kind of space that you can find. They're awesome, very well made. It's all text based, but I mean, it's the
Perfect.
same
That's
sort
kind
of
of like,
spec.
honestly, like what I like, and that's the thing that's silly is when it
Do you
comes to,
find it?
I did, and I am gonna look through it a little more in depth to see if there's any one that sticks out to me.
But that's what you're
Um,
looking for, right?
yeah, because the thing is when I look at those games, I know a lot of the features, like you set up everything and then you could play the match, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna simulate it.
Yeah.
Like, what do you
Um,
mean play the match? That's not why I'm getting this game.
yeah. So like the thing that I personally I love this college stuff because I like recruiting. Recruiting is one of my favorite parts of the entire thing. Of like, cool, here's this high school kid, and I have to recruit him to college. And it's like, cool, what does he like? Does he like the school's prestige? Does he want playing time? Does he want, whatever the hell he wants? Are his stats good? What are his stats like? Let's scout the kid. Let's do all this stuff. And like, they have all the points attached to it. You only have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of kids you can recruit, a certain amount of scholarships you can give out, right? Like all that kind of stuff. I love the management of that. Love it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it because that's the thing. Every year, I'll look at those games and it's legitimately like no interest in like the what everyone usually will play the game for. And I'm just like, I want the management.
Well, interesting thing about MLB The Show this year is the first year that it's not PlayStation exclusive. So
Really?
yeah, that's an
I did
interesting.
not catch that. That actually does pique my interest a bit.
Yeah,
'Cause
so it's going to be on Xbox and PlayStation, and then I have a friend that works at Sony, that works for Sony Santa Monica, not Sony Santa Monica, the Sony Entertainment Studios that says that they're looking into Switch. So like MLB The Show on the Switch would be a godsend of just like being able to
that'd be really
play.
cool, especially for like so like what I want to play with it. Like I
Yeah,
don't
just
need
like
like the high power. Do you think
yeah.
that
So
they
you're just
might
kind
break down and like give me my dream and they actually start bringing those games back to like a PC, or am I
of, I
gonna
don't
have to
know.
like uh,
I don't know to be honest. The PC market for sports games has been pretty low.
yeah, it doesn't help because I think a lot of like those game like it wouldn't shock me if a lot of the PC market is like me and they're more interested in the management.
Yeah.
Like, um, but okay, I'll have to look into Wolverine. But no, yeah, I saw MLB The Show was coming out again. I was just like, every every time I see clips of it, I'm just like, I'm interested, but not in like anything they're showing. uh, all right, shall we move on?
Yeah.
All right, so this is another really quick hit. Disney has given us dates for Loki and Bad Batch and a bunch of other things. So I know this month we're getting uh, Falcon and Winter Soldier. Also, I think we're getting the Mighty Ducks series this
Yeah,
month.
the trailer looks awesome.
It does. It looks so good. I actually started a Mighty Ducks rewatch um, in anticipation this week. So I'm in. I watched the first one. I started the second one, but started it too late at night that I was just like, okay, I need to finish this when I'm awake. Um, but yeah, I'm excited for that one because who doesn't love the Flying V? Um, but the big ones that I think most people are interested in is we get the Clone Wars spinoff Bad Batch is premiering on May 4th because of course got to get that May the 4th synergy. And then Loki is coming out in June. So Disney Plus looks like we had a few of originals, and then it's just like, if you look at 2021 into, or 20 ended 2020 into 2021, it's like we've gone from Mandalorian, where Mandalorian ended, we got WandaVision, we're gonna go into Falcon Winter Soldier, then we're gonna go into Bad Bat. It's just like, it seems like their rollout cycle is now like we're getting something new or interesting every month that is exclusive to Disney
Well,
Plus.
every week we're getting something.
Yeah.
This week we're getting the WandaVision behind the scenes stuff, which I always love.
Yeah, I it's really interesting to look at that and then be like, wow, Disney Plus is like great. I love having this. And then seeing how other streaming services have either rebranded or relaunched, and like all the headlines are, this is interesting, but we're not sure it's worth it. And it's just like, man, I'd hate to be an executive at anyone other than Disney right now.
Yeah.
Though it seems like HBO Max's strategy of day and date releases in theaters is paying off, because it seems like they are seeing some subscriber growth. So, I mean, I'm not going to complain. I didn't spend money on a movie ticket for Wonder Woman. I instead just watched it at home, uh, and I think I won that one. But yeah, no, it's things to be excited about, and I'm sure you and I will be talking to death some of the stuff that's coming up on Disney Plus. So cool, right?
Right.
Chris, I think this is the fastest we've gotten to the final topic in
A very long time.
a very long time. WandaVision had its, I believe it's actually technically its series finale, Friday. What was your reaction, Chris?
I loved it.
I was whelmed. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like blown away by it, is I think the best way to put it.
I wasn't blown away by it. I was happy for a lot of the stuff they brought in and like kind of where they're going with it. Um, and I think the disappointing part for me was like there was a little too much of like the Marvel fight in there.
Yeah. Like
And
the
like
moment
I
it
I totally get that they needed it in there, and I understand the need to have it in there, but a little too much. Like a couple minutes too much.
yeah, that was around the moment where I began to kind of go, okay. Because one of the things I'd hoped, I guess on some level, I think I kind of hoped was that by doing these TV series that they would be willing to do stuff that was a little smaller, that it
Yeah.
didn't always have to be like the epic fight with the big bad. Um, and we got glimpses of it, but it almost was like they went and defaulted to Marvel standard operating procedure fairly
Yeah.
quickly towards the end, where it just started to become another Marvel thing rather than what they had done earlier with WandaVision that made it interesting and unique. Um,
Yeah, like I think the episode prior was way better. The
yes,
flashback episode was
yes,
awesome. Um,
really well done.
yeah, the the probably my favorite episode of the season was the flashback episode. But the just the stuff like the ship of Theseus discussion with Vision and White Vision was so good.
Hmm.
Um, I love her. I love Wanda going back into Agatha's head like she did to the Avengers in Age of Ultron because we hadn't seen her
Yes,
do
that
that
was
in
a
a long
very
time.
nice. That was a very nice throwback that I actually was like,
Yeah,
thank you, because it was something I found really cool in Age of Ultron that they just never touched on again, where
yeah,
they
and
did like the horror
she hadn't
movie
done that
witchy
the entire
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
and
was
it was
like,
just like
cool.
I was so glad that they did a throwback to that.
Yeah,
Um,
that was great. Her missing on purpose and throwing the runes up was a really good twist that I didn't get at the time. I was like, what is she doing? And then when they reveal it, it's such a good payoff. Uh, there's like really cool elements to what was going on, but I mean, like, I don't, I don't know how much COVID affected the show,
I think that's a
but
fair question.
because the stuff with Darcy, where like clearly she has more going on than just hitting Hayward with the car, um,
Yeah,
and then it's very easy to explain that hey, they found it before COVID was over, and then after COVID, or before COVID happened, then after COVID, they couldn't get her back on set, and so yeah, she just ran away or she just left. I feel like there's more to her story because she was kind of left hanging. Um,
yeah,
you know
and you're
that
probably
that's
right. Because the thing I've heard from not about WandaVision, but just about a lot of productions in general, that uh, a lot of schedules just got almost completely upended to where they were
yeah,
kind of just having to work with what they had because they couldn't have more, either because people were unavailable or because they couldn't have like there were, especially when lockdowns are really starting to happen, they were starting to clamp down, and they still on some level have clamped down on the amount of people who can be on a set at any given time. There are some shoots out there where I think some countries and localities have mandated like a cap at 50 people. So like you can't have more than 50 people on
yeah,
set. That includes
that's very
cast and
little.
crew. And yeah, on some shows, that's bare bones. Like that
Yeah,
is, you have one camera unit, only the essential cast and only essential crew. A lot of like anything that is considered extraneous. And this actually often includes like producers, like anyone who doesn't have to be on set is working via Zoom or some other remote system.
yeah,
Usually not Zoom because Zoom isn't secure enough. So I think you're right. I think that may have impacted it because we know that that COVID did delay because Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be first.
right.
So I think you're right. I think we may have been seeing, especially towards the end. I think that's actually, I would love to get an answer on that because that could explain some of the choices they made and why it became like the CGI fight that the show didn't feel like it was building to. And it may have just been them going, we don't have another option.
Yeah.
Um,
So I mean, and again, it's not like it's a bad episode, and it's not like it's not like I'm not satisfied by the ending. It just goes to like, man, I felt like they were building towards more, and I felt like the show was so good, and then it just kind of it didn't fall off a cliff, but it was just like, oh, okay,
petered out.
yeah.
That's how I
And
felt while watching.
and
I'm like,
and
okay,
again, the thing is like I love what they set up, and I love the what we're getting into. Like what this leads into is really fucking cool. But like, so apparently they did film a Doctor Strange cameo at the end. There was supposed to be a Doctor Strange appearance here, but it was on the cutting room. They cut it at the last minute. Like it was set to be on air up until like a couple days before it aired, and they cut it
hmm.
at the very very end.
I wonder why. Because I remember also after it finished, I was just like, I thought this was supposed to tie in more to Doctor Strange, and I'm
I
wondering
mean,
now it.
it
Yeah,
does with her with the very end.
yeah, with her hearing the call for help.
Well, she's astral projecting and she's reading the Darkhold.
Yeah,
So like both of those things are very Doctor Strange. Um, and it plays the Doctor Strange music as she's doing it too.
yeah. Like so, it's one of those scenes where it's like I knew what the connection was, but I wonder how many people missed it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it also brings up the question too of like, is Agents of Shield canon? Because that's a or Doctor well, Agents of Shield and the Runaways were the last time we saw the Darkhold in what we assumed was MCU canon. But I don't know if those are canon anymore.
I wonder if it falls into the realm of like I look at it as kind of like how Star Wars Legends operates in the current canon sometimes, where it is, uh, I'd almost call it
It's alive
sometimes
when it's convenient to us.
it's canon light. It doesn't hurt
Right.
to read it. a lot of stuff that happens within it is going to get drawn upon, like when everyone threw a fit about the Palpatine clone. I was like, that's like half of Legends. It's convenient to draw upon. It is not canon, so if you never read it, you're not like missing out on anything. But if you have read it, like there's a lot of like things like allusions to things that have happened in the series. Like even on some level, it's just like if you get into like Mandalorian with the reference to Thrawn, like the very direct reference to Thrawn, it's like, are we going to be that sets up the question of, are we going to get like the Thrawn trilogy adapted for the new canon?
Right.
And that's how I would look at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is I would say it's not canon. So the events in there aren't canon, but the general summary probably is. That's, I think, the safest way to look at stuff like that, where it's just like, yeah, it's not a canon story anymore, but we could probably safely assume that that they were operational in the capacity that you see in the show. It just, things are going to get rewritten or updated or changed to fit Feige's vision. Rather than, so like, I think it's safe to say Agent Coulson was probably alive, probably was ahead of S.H.I.E.L.D. S.H.I.E.L.D. was probably still around. They probably had their merry adventures and all that fun stuff. But the episode to episode breakdown, the events that happen in there, read the summary and you're probably okay. Anything in there can be changed and will be changed to meet the needs of the actual canon. But speaking of canon, one thing that this upset me because it felt like it was a weird double cross. Well, not a double cross, where it was like a fake out, with, having fake Quicksilver, being just some random guy, even though he looks like the one from the other series. You what?
I don't like that.
I didn't like it either. Like there was a part of me that's like, we already have all these hints to the multiverse, so maybe
let them pull him from the Fox universe. Like
it should have been that.
Yes. And so that's the other thing too. Evan Peters and the director of WandaVision has already come out and said that he's coming back. I can't talk about how, but he is still coming back. So again, it could be something else. We'll still get a better explanation. They did get it is a really good boner joke, and it's a reference to others. It's another reference. So I mean, like, I like that they're using the sitcom references to do something fun.
Because isn't that from like cheeky.
Growing Pains?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a pretty deep cut reference.
Yeah, like that was one of those ones where that happened and I was like, wait, is that what I think it is?
Yeah, so it's a fun like deep cut reference, which I appreciate. But yeah, the director and Evan Peters have both come out already. Said like, I'll be back, and it's like, he'll be back. And I can't talk about the capacity, but like, don't worry about it.
So maybe the fake out isn't that he's not Quicksilver. He is Quicksilver, but because of multiverse, like things got messed up.
Yeah. So, who knows? I think it's fun, either way. But yeah, the setup at the end. I love the really dark thing of turning Agatha into Agnes permanently. Yeah. Like, to me, that was like really dark, and they kind of walk over it. Right?
And they kind of just like bypass it. I'm just like, this is kind of disturbing, guys.
Yeah, I was like, this is fucked up.
Like, there's so much messed. Like, I feel like that is something that could have been. They kind of drew into it a bit, where it's just like Wanda, because she unintentionally have been messing with these people's minds.
Yeah.
And they kind of, both it and Agnes kind of get touched upon, and then
Well, like
left.
I love the scene where she's leaving town and everyone's just staring at her.
Yeah.
And I love it because it's such a like she could apologize and say sorry, but like what does that do? Like there's nothing that she could say to these people where
Yeah,
they're
this
gonna be like,
to overcome what happened. And I do like the fact that they had the bit with Monica Gore. She's like, I would can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing to have my mom back. And I think that's actually a fair assessment, is that if you've ever lost someone dear, like
yeah, you get it.
you get it. You'd be like, you know what, like what it is wrong, but I can't say that if I was in the same position and didn't know what the end result was, that I wouldn't have
Yeah.
done the same, made the same choices.
Yeah. And
Um,
again, like, and it's a thing of she makes a great line of like, they'll never know what you sacrificed to
mhm.
save them. And she goes, it doesn't matter. Like, and it's so true, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't matter. Like, because she's really fucked over these people. And so, like, you know, I love, I would have loved another beat of like them. I don't know if it would have been like beating a dead horse to have like more impact, but like having her just kind of fly off just seemed like a quick little thing. Part of me realizes too, like what the Doctor Strange cameo was, and like part of me thinks of like if she's in the cabin at the end, right?
hmm
And like we go through that whole scene, and then Doctor Strange walks in and goes, "All right, time to get to work," or something like that. It's a little too positive of a vibe.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Where like I love the idea that she is reading the Darkhold, getting taken over by the Darkhold. Because like I don't know if you did you get that far in Agents of Shield or
I
Runaways
did
where they
not.
like so like do you know about the Darkhold?
Very little. I know it's essentially like the Necronomicon of Marvel.
Yeah, so it's like the Necronomicon. It has all the dark magic and all the dark evil things in it. Um, really important to know to like be able to do to it. Her learning is like really important, right? Because like they make the reference that like she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme, right? So basically,
Yeah,
she's more powerful than Doctor Strange. But the um her learning and how to control her powers is like super important. And it's a big part of the comics too. But the Darkhold, it has like properties of like think of like the One Ring in Lord of the Rings, where like the more you use it and the more you dive in, the more it kind of like takes you over and makes you corrupts you. And
yeah.
so the thing is with her, she doesn't know any better, right? She doesn't know that it
She
does
doesn't have
that.
Gandalf saying the rain will corrupt you to its will.
Yeah, so she doesn't know that. So she's just sitting here reading this book, and you're like, please no, don't read the book. So like that's kind of like where I'm at, where as soon as it shows her astral projecting, reading the book, because if she's astral projecting reading the book, that means she's reading the book all the time.
Yeah,
Like she's not going to bed. Like she's reading the book all the time. So that book is gonna be she's gonna be by the time Doctor Strange 2 happens, she's gonna be super evil.
yeah. I'm wondering because they say it ties into it. I'm wondering if she's going to be unintentionally the big bad.
Well, we know that Nightmare is in Doctor Strange 2.
Right? Remind me on Nightmare because that is one I'm not familiar with.
Well, Nightmare he's like another devil demon guy, like a Mephisto, like everyone's talking about, like that,
Yeah,
typical like mind bending sorcerer type power like being. So,
cool.
it's gonna be cool. But yeah. So from what I know, that's gonna be he's probably gonna be the big bad. But I could see a thing where Wanda is ripping apart the multiverse
Yeah,
looking for looking for her kids, right? Like
I
that's pretty
think
much
that's what this series set up in some ways, and I think that's why the Evan Peters bit was like kind of upsetting. I'm like, we got this hint, and it could be just like the fake name was the fake aspect rather than he's
right.
not really Boner. He's actually really this, Quicksilver, but was still operating within whatever mindset or would. But the
Like
idea being,
when you pull someone from the multiverse, they need to like take the place of someone that's already in this. Like you need to trade places, right?
yeah, and so it's just like I think she already. I would not be shocked if she's already tore a hole. Like
Right.
I think whatever it is, she may not realize it, but I think whatever patch Doctor Strange is going to have to apply to the multiverse is because of this series, knowingly or
Yeah.
unknowingly.
Yeah. But
So,
yeah, I'm super excited for Doctor Strange. We already know it's like a horror film to a certain extent.
well, it's Raimi,
So
right?
yeah, it's Raimi, and they're doing like a horror film vibe. Um,
I know
so
everyone is like,
that
"Oh, Spider-Man, Sam Raimi." It's like, no, we're Army of Darkness, Sam Raimi.
yeah. So it's gonna be really fun to like see that play out. Given the way that Doctor Strange functions, like it could look so cool. Um, because I don't know if you've read Doctor Strange comics get like real crazy with the visuals, and then on top of that, like the world that he lives in could get really creepy really fast and really like unsettling, just given the multiverse stuff.
Yeah,
Um, so like all that should be super super fun. Um, but yeah, and then we haven't talked about it at all. But I also do love the Captain Marvel 2 setup.
yeah.
Um, that was so exciting to see.
No, it's yeah. Like the moment we got the scroll too, I'm like, oh god, are we gonna actually? Are we already in the Secret Invasion?
Yeah,
Like,
but I love them. I hope they keep going with the scroll appearance in every. Like I hope at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier, they're like, "Hey, Sam, we need to talk," and then it's a scroll. Like fuck, and then
yeah,
I
like
hope they just keep going
and the thing I like about it too is like they're all working for
for Fury.
Furry. It just makes me laugh, like because admittedly I've only read bits and pieces from the comics, but I know like Secret Invasion was like this whole thing where a bunch of people were like replaced, and it was kind of like idea that it's just nope, it's just Nick Fury, just makes
Yeah,
me
he's
laugh.
just doing shit. But
It's
yeah,
like
I love the setup for this, and like if they're setting up for Secret Invasion, and it's just like every episode will end with, or every season of whatever show it is will end with Fury recruiting or wanting to meet with people
God
through scrolls
through scrolls, and
would
I
be
I also have no opposition to more Ben Mendelsohn in my life. Like
absolutely. I mean, he's already confirmed for Secret Invasion, right?
I don't know, but I just realized for our FBI Jimmy Woo series, I want like I want at some point there to be a team up with him and Ben
Ben
Mendelsohn the
Mendelsohn.
scroll. I don't
So
know why, but that would be
spe-
like this. That'd be an amazing pairing.
speaking of Jimmy Woo, the moment where he takes off the handcuffs and goes with a flourish was one
Yes,
of the
I love that little
funniest
line. It was
things.
just, oh god, and it's just like I love how obviously he was impacted by Scott Lang.
Yeah, he just loves magic now, so he's just like with a flourish.
With a flourish. And I won't lie, that as calling the FBI, which he did, is like the thing that should have happened. But there was a part of me that kind of wanted it to be Scott.
Yeah, Scott, what do I do?
Scott, you're an Avenger. It's like, how'd you get
We
this
need the
number?
Avengers. We need the Avengers. Um, But yeah, just the fact that he takes out the handcuffs, does with the floor to himself. No one's around him to see this happen. He just does it. It's just something that he's doing to himself. It's so funny to me.
And it's just so in character too.
Yeah, it's great.
Like more Randall Park, please. Just more Randall Park. I've said it before, and I'm saying it again now. More Randall Park. Just make it happen, Hollywood. But yeah, it's like I said, I think you and I both were talking about like, it petered out towards the end. Still enjoyed the series for the most part.
Yeah, I don't
And
even
I
think like
and
I don't even
and
think for the most part. I think like I don't I know you didn't like the beginning of it, but like for me, I thought this was one of the best seasons of TV I've seen in a long time.
I think
Especially superhero show wise. But I mean, I think
because
the
I'll fully admit that the beginning might that was like a not a because I think their execution of those first two episodes was fantastic. Like it's one of those things where I can appreciate it on a craftsmanship and artistry level what they did there. It just those types of shows don't really, you
right, they
know,
don't hit with you.
they don't hit with me. But I also do like the fact that I look at the series and I go, I remember watching and going, I don't think this sort of worked as a movie.
No, absolutely
A,
not.
B, if they did a movie with her, I don't think this is a story we would have received.
Yeah,
And I do
100%.
appreciate the fact that as much as it did fall into the big Marvel big bad fight, they were willing to be smaller. You
Right.
know,
And darker. This show is dark. Like really dark at the core of it. And it's something that I never thought like there's a great interview where it was from Age of Ultron when they were doing the press for Age of Ultron, and the reporter asked or wow, not
Elizabeth
Scarlett
Olsen.
Johansson, Elizabeth Olsen of like what which story she would want to do or like what she want to see in the future. And Elizabeth Olsen said, yeah, her favorite story is House of M, and like Marvel would never do it. It's a little too dark, but like watching her lose her mind and like overcome with grief and all the kind of stuff is like so interesting to me, and it's something that I would love to do. But yeah, we never get to do it just because it's such a dark story. And like everyone was pulling up that interview when this was happening because it was just like they're doing it. Holy shit! And it was just a thing of like, man, think of like the leeway Feige has at this point, where it's like this story works and people care about it and they're able to do it.
Yeah,
Where it's like
it's
nothing's off the table.
it is. This is a story that they couldn't have started with, and this isn't a story that
No,
they probably could have told. I mean, admittedly, given the events that led up to it, yes, it had to take place after Endgame, but like I don't think the story would have worked earlier in the MCU cycle. And then on top of that, it reminds me of like because I recently had playing in the background while working at least the old Justice League series from like the
unlimited.
early 2000s. So Justice League and
Right.
then Justice League Unlimited. And looking at that and then looking at the MCU and then looking at what Warner Brothers is doing or trying to do now and realizing it's just like Warner Brothers is the studio that would sit there and be like, oh yeah, we could totally do a WandaVision vision type story, but wouldn't actually do any of the setup to get to that point. And
Yeah,
I think that's the
it's
big
it's earned,
difference is
right?
that
Like Marvel's
Marvel
fully
got to
earned.
that point.
Yeah, like Marvel fully earned their right to tell this story and like connect with these characters. And they like there's so much here where if you don't know the relationship Wanda and Vision have, or like if you don't know what Wanda's been through in the last like couple of years, or like any of that, like if there's no setup or context, like it just doesn't hit as hard, and you don't care. But like you fully are invested, and you fully care about what she's been through as a character, what he's been through as a character, and then like all of the stuff around it of what's going on, and like the blip and Thanos and all that kind of stuff. Like you fully invest in like these characters, and like you just don't get that. Dude, the reveal where she drives to the plot and she pulls up the thing and it has the heart circle around it. It says to grow old in. It like killed me. Um, all that kind of stuff, right? You don't get that without the setup.
Yeah, like you can't start here. Um,
No,
and
but I do
yeah,
think this is such a weird thing of like, because this was supposed to be the second or third series out. The first one was supposed to be Falcon Winter Soldier, which is more traditional MCU, what we expect from MCU, the action set pieces, the quips back and forth, right?
yeah,
And like, I'm so curious now, the expectation that WandaVision sets. We're like, are we going to be disappointed with Falcon and Winter Soldier now because
it is
we expect something different?
because because the thing too is look at our complaint about
Yeah.
WandaVision. It is the
Well, I think
fact
the
that
complaint about WandaVision was because the show was different and
yeah,
like
and the moment it
the ending
became
doesn't match.
yeah, the moment it became traditional Marvel, it was just like, oh, this is not what I wanted. And I think I think you're right. The fact that we've been shown that it doesn't have to follow, or Marvel is at least willing to flex a bit in this space.
Yeah.
I'm
But
not sure
again, like,
how people are gonna. Either people who weren't on board WandaVision might be more on board with it, but I don't know. I wonder. I think you're right. I think that's gonna be worth paying attention to.
I
Is
think if it starts with Falcon Winter Soldier, if that's the first show, then it's like cool. We know what this is. It's like everything's more, like it's just more Marvel. Cool, great. And then WandaVision comes out, blows our minds, and you're like, oh my god, it's so different, so unique. But then like now you have the unique thing first, and then you're going back to traditional
yeah, then you're going back to
Marvel,
traditional,
right?
but Loki probably is gonna go back into the weird. It's just
Yeah. So I love the diversity here because again, from everything we've seen from Miss Marvel to like Miss Marvel's a character that I love. Kamala Khan is one of my favorite characters, and so like they just wrapped shooting on that, and like everything I've seen there looks awesome. The Hawkeye series looks great. I don't know if you've seen the set photos, but like it looks so great. It looks just like the Matt Fraction comic. Um,
by the way, that was a great recommendation. I did
oh,
enjoy
you
reading
finished
it.
it?
I I need to double check because sometimes I feel like Marvel Unlimited doesn't or Comixology often don't tell me like
Oh,
they will
when's the end?
when it's an actual end, but like what I have read, I have enjoyed, or at least what I was able to read,
Does
I enjoyed.
so so now that you know, because I know you weren't like super hyped, you were like, "Why are you excited for this Hawkeye series?"
Oh
And I
yeah,
was like,
no. The
"Read
moment I
the."
read this, I was like, "Oh, this is why Chris is excited." Is because it fully embraces the fact that Hawkeye, on some level, and I think like the MCU kind of like hints at this, where it's just like he's the one person on the Avengers who's just kind of like this
The
guy,
guy with arrows.
yeah, like this guy, and then the comic series is also like, wait, you're an Avenger. It's just it embraces
Yeah,
that aspect of Hawkeye, and just it's one of those cases where he's
and
just
Kate
good.
Bishop is such a great character, and Haley Steinfeld, I love her, and I think she's gonna play a great Kate Bishop.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that one. Um, but yeah, it's like we were
But
talking
yeah,
about
her
earlier with
her
Disney Plus. It's like there's so much coming up from just Marvel and Star Wars to be excited about.
yeah, super excited, super happy, can't wait. I'm super excited. I don't know if you saw this. We're getting into like weird territory now. I don't know if we're even in the same topic, but the Obi-Wan series, Ray Park put out a thing of him getting into the mall makeup again. Like he put a picture of him in the mall makeup. And so
Hmm.
I was like, dude,
I'm
are they
if they
redoing
if they do the
the
fight,
Rebels yeah, are they doing the Rebels fight in
that means
Obi-Wan,
we might
which
get
would
a
be
live action Ezra. Taylor Gray
yeah.
could do it.
Dude, could you well, I kind of assumed we were going to get live action Ezra once they announced Ahsoka.
Same here.
Um, but dude, the yeah, like if we get, I don't even need Ezra. If we just get the Obi-Wan Maul fight in this like live action, I'm gonna freak out.
It's such a good fight too.
It really is. There's
Uh
so much subtlety to it.
I remember having to explain to people why it's probably one of the best fights in Star Wars. But it also
Dude, the
requires
fact
you
that
to have like it requires you to know Star Wars to know why that's such a good fight.
oh my god, dude, when he goes through his stances
Yeah.
and he like oh where he goes through the young stance where he first fought him, he goes, no, this isn't right. And he goes to the Qui-Gon
The
stance, you're like, yes.
and it's just like you could tell and I think it
And
was
Maul
Filoni
knows
who made the
and
comment.
Maul
And Maul
notices
adjusts because he goes to do the move that he
he yeah
used
he,
to get Qui-Gon.
to yeah the
And
the head bump
the head bump.
he
And
tries
I think it was Filoni who made the comment where it's just like Obi-Wan, this is like not only is it like the fight between two samurai masters, he's like for Obi-Wan, this is the fight that is played in his head forever.
yeah
Like, what would I do different to save Qui-Gon? Like, if I was Qui-Gon, what could I have done? And he did it.
yeah
Like, he was prepared for that move because he knew how Maul would play.
yeah, it's so good. It's
But
such a subtle fight too. Like you just need to know. That's like the Star Wars nerd test. Like, dude, if you know when you know the stuff in this fight, when you can call out like, oh, dude, he's doing the young Obi-Wan stance, and he goes to the old Obi-Wan stance, and he's like, oh, okay, then he goes to the Qui-Gon, then he tries to hit him with a head bump, and it doesn't work because Obi-Wan knows what's coming. Like,
yeah,
oh,
so
it's so
Obi-Wan's
good.
already ducked out of the way. It's just, yeah, it's so quick.
Yeah,
Um,
it's such a quick. It's like that actual fight itself, like 10 seconds.
yeah, and it's one of the best fights in Star Wars. But no, that's interesting. I hadn't seen that he had done the makeup,
Yeah,
but
so he posted a picture of him in the chair with all the makeup on, and you're like, "Oh my God, what is he filming?"
yeah. I wonder if they're gonna have like. I wonder if they're gonna have Whitwer redo the lines, or if it's gonna just be like try to not show Ray Park saying the lines. like, who knows? But that's interesting. That also puts Kenobi closer to A New Hope than I expected.
Well, it could be the very end of the show. It could be like a flash forward.
Yeah.
So
But also at the same time, when they announced Hayden Christensen, I was just like kind of caught off guard. Like,
Force Ghost.
yeah, it's just like I'm wondering what they're going to do. I'm interested to see what they do with that.
Dude, if they
But
if
they
they give
cast
me a
him and they said
Qui-Gon Force Ghost,
specifically cast him, I think, as Darth Vader. It wasn't as Anakin
oh,
Skywalker. But
that's
so
not
who
fun.
knows what they're doing there? Um,
Give me the Qui-Gon. Give me the Liam Neeson Force
did
Ghost.
you ever read the From a Certain Point of View tie-in book to A New Hope?
No, did not.
If there is any one thing that like I haven't finished that book, honestly, but there is one section in there and it ties into the fact that I say this every time we talk about Star Wars books. Just when in doubt, read Claudia Gray. She wrote a section for that book, and it takes place after Luke has left to go back to the homestead because he's afraid that, like, it's right before, like, when he leaves Obi-Wan to go back and discover that Owen and Beru have died.
Mhm.
We don't see Obi-Wan in the movie until Luke returns. Like, he leaves, goes to the homestead, sees burning homestead, returns to Obi-Wan. So she wrote an entire section of what Obi-Wan is like kind of going through in that moment, and he talks with Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon's Force Ghost.
Mhm.
And it is quite like if you can usually pick it up from LA Public Library's like ebook. It's not checked out very often. You should be able to get it right away, even if you just read that one section. And that is exactly what I think would happen if they brought in Qui-Gon's Force Ghost. Like, I kind of hope they do. Like, canonize the idea that Obi-Wan spent a lot of time communicating with Qui-Gon while in the desert. Because in that section, Qui-Gon is thinking about how he's sometimes had to do this, like he's shown up because it would just essentially help keep Obi-Wan's sanity.
Right.
Where it's just like, because Obi-Wan is alone on a very, like, in some ways, he's on a very desolate, isolated mission. where he can't really interact with many people and he has to keep who he is a secret, and he kind of is just stuck there. It's just, it makes sense that Qui-Gon as a Force ghost would, make an appearance every once in a while.
Yeah.
Be there for him.
Yeah.
And it would also explain why Obi-Wan was like, you know what? If I just let Vader kill me, I can actually do more for this kid than alive. Like, I could be Qui-Gon. I could do it right this time. But yeah, no, it's only a matter of time before we start getting all that Star Wars stuff. I think that Kenobi's supposed to, yeah, I think Kenobi's going to, it should be in production right now, or it was about to go into production, so at least
they've been in
the
production
rumor.
for a bit now.
Yeah. So, but it's also, here's the other thing, is the director, why am I blanking on her name? Because she did a lot of Mandalorian.
Oh, she's the Asian lady.
Mm-hmm.
I forget her name too.
Yeah, because the name the name that's popping in my head I know is Ron.
Now all I can think of is Claudia Gray, because that sounds like an Asian name, and I was like, no, that's not it. Claudia is a very stereotypical Asian woman name, and it's stuck in my head now.
Let me look it up. Kenobi director. Let's see. It is Deborah Chow.
There you go. Yeah.
She did a lot of action set pieces, so that also has me like wondering what's going on. So it was just like they chose like a good action director for a series that I would not have expected to have a lot of action.
Well, when you read some of the canon stuff, so like some of the Marvel comics, Marvel comics had that great issue where they're talking about what Obi-Wan was doing. It's like the journal.
He's fighting like Jabba's thugs. Yeah.
Yeah, so I could see elements of like, okay, he's fighting Jabba's thugs, he's fighting sand people, he's fighting, like he's protecting all this stuff from Luke. So I could see all of this being the case.
I wonder how much he actually isn't fighting sand people. I actually been thinking about this. Man, I should have had a Star Wars tag of just
negotiating.
Yeah, because of how Mando negotiates and communicates with them. Again, a tie-in thing. There is, in a certain point of view, a story from the perspective of one of the Tusken Raiders who interacts with Luke. And that Raider wants to go after Luke again. He's upset. And like the chief, like the elder chieftain or whatever is like, leave the wizard alone. Like, we have a deal. Yeah. Leave the wizard alone. Like, apparently, so I wouldn't be shocked at all if Obi-Wan has some sort of deal with the Tuskens where it's just like, and it actually might also explain why Maul could never find him and why Obi-Wan was able to find Ezra. He might actually just be talking to Tuskens all the time and be aware of what's going on.
Right.
Which, honestly, I would like if that's the story we get with Kenobi, is that he, they leave him alone in the sense that they know that he could do a lot of damage. So instead they have like a more symbiotic relationship. We help you, you don't kill us. Or you help us on occasion. And yeah. So no, Kenobi. Like that's gonna be a very interesting series, and I'm glad that they are doing it. I'm also glad it's only gonna be 3 or 4 episodes.
I forget. It's a limited run, yeah.
It's a very limited run, which I'm very glad about. One of the things, and this is something I think Mandalorian did really well, and I think that they're like the fact that they're only doing like a few episodes for Kenobi shows that they have like the same mindset with the number of episodes. Mandalorian was not afraid to have short episodes.
No.
Like, there were times where they had like 35-minute episodes, and I was just like, I'm not upset at all as a viewer. Like, you had a very good, solid 35 minutes. And then they would turn around and have like a 50-minute episode, and it'd be a good solid 50 minutes. Like they didn't, the story they were showing was just as long as it needed to be. And so I'm hoping and guessing that Kenobi is in the same boat where they're like, we know the story we're going to tell. We also know that it's, if we go over X amount, it's just padding and not good. Quality over quantity.
Correct. Much appreciated.
Yeah. But no, that does it for me, unless you have other thoughts.
No, I think that's it.
All right. Let's wrap this thing up. Please like, share, subscribe, do all those fun things. You can always shoot us an email if it's not down. I actually, side note, our email was down for a bit because of our domain registrar didn't re-up something. So it was like a bunch of people who use that registrar for their email lost email for a bit, and I need to double check and make sure it's working again. So hey, that email at the bottom, it might not actually come to me. And it's not actually legitimately not my fault. Says Han. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, you can always shoot us an email or tweet or something. Because I will see those. But otherwise, please stay safe, wear your mask, take care, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.